Well, hello. Welcome back for day 4 of this VIGORESS 5-day mini course or mini training. All right, today we're going to tackle nutrition. And from my experience, that's probably where most people are going to be the most confused. And they also go into a fitness program with a certain expectation that they have to follow a very specific nutrition plan. And I hope that what you got out of our talk about exercise and the VIGORESS training program was the understanding that this isn't a 4-week get in shape quick kind of program. This is planned out as a long-term thing. And I hope to be with you month after month, at least over the course of this next year, if not longer. I mean, even if you're in the program and you're just doing the $25 a month for the VIGORESS training, it should be at a price point where you could easily do that month after month. And the training is never going to become stale because it's never going to stay the same. So with that in mind, I want you to take that same thought process and apply it to nutrition. I'm not into the idea that you need this 4-week, 6-week, 8-week, here's how to get lean quick kind of nutrition plan or meal prescription. I did that when I was a newer fitness professional, a personal trainer. I used to write out nutrition plans or meal prescriptions for my clients. And it would be, they'd get 6 ounces of chicken and half a potato at dinner, and they'd have, X number of servings of vegetables, and for breakfast they'd have 3 eggs with, whatever. It would be very specific and very rigid. And what would happen is people would follow that plan for a while and they would see results, but eventually they just got sick of the food. And they would be torn because they would have seen such great results with the nutrition plan, but they didn't really learn guidelines because they were just following a meal plan. They didn't learn the guidelines. They didn't understand why they were eating what they were eating. Even if I would talk to them about it, they'd tune it out because they knew that they had this meal plan in hand. And inevitably what would happen is people would get to some point and they'd say, I'm sick of this, I'm done. And they'd fall back to bad habits because they didn't learn the guidelines or the fundamentals of good nutrition in the beginning and throughout the course of our time together, because they relied on that meal plan for so long. So as I progressed with my career, I began to understand the value of teaching people guidelines, of teaching them how to fish for themselves versus giving them fish, using that analogy. And the results have been much better. Now you have to be more patient because it takes time to learn, and you're going to learn some guidelines throughout this VIGORESS training, VIGORESS Premium, VIGORESS Custom. We're going to talk about it in the VIGORESS Facebook group, of course. But it's so easy to become overwhelmed. And what I hope that you don't do is feel like, I hear what Tom's saying, and I'm going to work on eating more protein, but I also want to learn about omega-3 fatty acids and which fats are better than others, and should I be doing grass-fed, and I'm going to learn about GMOs and go down this downward spiral of all kinds of information you can get caught up in. And suddenly you're so overwhelmed with nutrition that you just don't do anything. Or you're talking to one person who says one thing, you're talking to another who says another. When I was working with clients, I would jokingly, but with some seriousness, say, if we're going to do this thing together, if you're going to hire me and I'm going to work with you, I expect you to be monogamous with me. You have to be faithful. And they'd look at me like, what are you talking about? And I'd explain that I expected that if I was going to give them recommendations, suggestions, advice, stuff to work on week by week, that they would follow through with that, and they wouldn't go and ask questions and read stuff from other sources, not because I thought I had all the answers, but I knew that the moment they started doing that, they'd get lured into other ways of eating. They'd start wondering if what they were doing was enough, or Could they make more changes faster because their friend just went on this strict diet for 6 weeks and lost a bunch of weight? Little do they know that 6 weeks later that friend's going to probably gain back a bunch of weight anyway. My point is, I want to teach you some guidelines, and you got to get good at the guidelines first, because if you do that, then it doesn't matter if you're out with friends, if you're on your own, if you're kind of in an emotional state and feeling like eating some junk food. There's some things you can do to minimize the effects that some otherwise poor choices may have on your health, on your body composition, on your ability to recover, on your sleep, and so on. So when it comes to nutrition, there's a few things that I set as sort of the foundation. One, and I'm sure you've heard it from me before, either read it on a blog post or heard me talk about it on a video in the VIGORESS Facebook group or something, but number one, the most important thing is that you're eating plenty of protein with every meal and snack. And that is, it sounds easy, and there's probably a few people who are going to tune into this and they're already doing it. But in my experience, most people believe that they're eating more protein than they actually are. Because what they tend to think of is the perhaps the pork chop or the burger or the chicken breast that they had last night for dinner, and they're like, oh, that was a lot of protein that I had at dinner, one meal during the day. And I want you to start thinking about it every meal. Some people eat 4 times a day. Some eat 2 times a day. I don't really care. Eat the same number of meals that you're eating, and just make a point of getting plenty of protein with each of those meals. Now, what does plenty mean? Well, ideally, over the course of a whole day, you're going to eat about 1 gram per pound of ideal body weight of protein. Now, what does that mean? Well, like let's say that you are currently 180 pounds, but you know that you really should and could be at 140, and that's what you're going for. 140 grams of protein then is going to be plenty. You don't need to eat 180, that would be overkill. So about 1 gram per pound of ideal body weight, the goal weight that you have in mind. If you are looking to gain weight, of course, you just take that, whatever that number is that you want to be at, and that would be the number to shoot for. From there, you just take that total protein for the day and divide it over the number of meals that you eat. I personally eat just 2 meals a day. I eat lunch after my workout around 1 or 2 o'clock in the afternoon, and I eat dinner. In my opinion, it's fasting that long, so intermittent fasting, skipping breakfast and not eating until early afternoon and then just having a dinner. It's harder on women than it is on guys to do that. Women tend to be more sensitive to physical and mental stress, and sometimes intermittent fasting can be hard on them. I'm not going to say it's bad all the time. There's certainly value in it for some people, but that's a topic that, again, we can start going down a path of, hey, now I want to get interested in intermittent fasting, and what's all that about, and is that for me? Let's stop. The only reason I brought it up was you may be doing that already just out of habit. I've had clients in the past who just ate lunch and dinner and they were content. So my goal then was to get them to eat a lot more protein at lunch and at dinner. And the easy way to start with that is just focus on your first meal of the day for a week. And if you can get it down so you're eating again, around 30 grams or more of protein in that one meal every day for 7 days in a row, then start thinking about what your next meal is, probably lunch, and do the same thing for lunch and then dinner, and then you can take a look at, okay, I've got this down, I'm eating more protein throughout the day, am I getting enough in total? But one meal at a time, focusing on protein. The reason that I recommend starting at the beginning of the day rather than saying, okay, I'll just eat more at dinner, is when you eat a high protein meal for your first meal, it tends to reduce your cravings and your appetite throughout the course of the rest of the day. Protein is very satiating, so that's why I'm just harping on it in today's this day 4 lesson. We're talking about protein because it's so important, it's so valuable, and in my opinion, for most people who end up eating a higher protein diet, they inevitably eat fewer carbohydrates, they have less cravings for sweets, and they even eat a little bit less fat. Not that fat's necessarily a bad thing, but it can become excessive. So, again, if you eat breakfast today and your breakfast up to this point has been cereal, then your challenge from a nutrition standpoint is to replace that cereal with a low sugar, low carbohydrate protein shake, or an omelet, or an egg scramble. If you're not good at making the omelet, you can just scramble everything together. You could do a little bit of ham or turkey and some vegetables and just mix it all up, scramble it in a pan. Or, of course, you could just have leftovers like chicken breast or a piece of steak or bison or anything like that. But a high protein first meal, whatever your normal first meal of the day is. If you eat breakfast and you're like, I don't know if I want to eat a high protein breakfast, so I'm just going to wait until lunch. Don't do that. Eat at the same times you've been eating and make it a habit of every one of those meals being high protein. What about snacks? If you have to have a snack, well, same kind of thing. Make it a high protein snack. Even Costco has these great protein bars, the Kirkland brand, low carbohydrate protein bars. Maybe I'll put a picture, if I haven't already, in the VIGORESS Facebook group. But there's 20 grams of protein in there. I think it's like 6 grams of carbohydrates, maybe 8 grams of fat. They're fantastic. We go through boxes of them every month. And there's other low-carb protein bars. Quest bars can be okay as well. Some of them have sucralose, some of them do not. If they have sucralose, I don't recommend it. But again, getting a little bit off topic, but my point is snacks, same thing. If you like to have a snack of some fruit and almonds, sorry, that's not a high-protein snack. Nuts aren't a high-protein food. They're high in fat. They might have a little bit of protein in them, but in order to get a substantial amount of protein, you'd end up eating so much fat that it would not be worth it. Fruit, dried fruit, that's all carbohydrates. So if you can tolerate dairy and you want to have some cottage cheese with a few berries or something, all right, we're talking. But again, get breakfast down, then the next meal. And my assumption is if you are used to eating a snack in the middle of the morning, you're probably not going to want it anymore because you're still going to be full from breakfast when you eat a high protein breakfast. That's all that I want to say for this lesson about specific nutrition. And then we're going to talk more as time goes on. What about carbohydrates? Some of you are getting my Tom Nicola 365 daily Facebook Messenger updates. There's just like a 2 to 4 sentence tip of the day that I send you when I do that. If you're not and you want it, just go to tomnicola.com/365 and you can sign up to receive those. But one of those, the one that shocks people the most, and I actually get quite a few unsubscribes, is one of the messages says breakfast is the worst time of the day to eat carbohydrates. People get so mad about that because they've been told since elementary school that they're supposed to have cereal and healthy whole grains for breakfast and drinking orange juice because it's supposedly high in vitamin C. And that's just bad advice. So breakfast is not the time to be eating carbohydrates unless you want to be craving carbohydrates all day long and unless you want to get your blood sugar levels up and energy levels are going to fluctuate. And that's a whole other discussion that I'll save for another time. That's why I start with breakfast. Start with a high protein, at least 30 grams of protein for breakfast. Now, what does that mean in terms of how much food should you be eating? Well, I'll let you do a little bit of learning on that because you're gonna, as you look online or you look at a package and see, eggs have 6 grams of protein. So 2 eggs is only 12 grams of protein. I'm going to have to get some meat with those eggs if I want to have a high protein breakfast. I want you to do a little bit of that learning on your own instead of me just giving all of the answers. And that's the idea, again, with rather than giving you the fish, I'm going to have you teach you and coach you to learn a little bit of this stuff on your own. All right, I've been talking for about 15 minutes just on protein. I could probably talk for another 45 because protein is so powerful. Again, another free resource on my website, tomnicola.com, is there's a free ebook. I think I might have already mentioned it on one of the other lessons. What you need to know about high protein diets. I'd recommend reading that especially if you're a little unsettled about this lesson so far and you're like, I don't know if I really want to do what he's talking about because I love my granola in the morning and I don't want to give up my orange juice, and what about my coffee that's all doctored up with other stuff? Read that ebook or read the article that's on my website about protein, and you'll understand why I'm so adamant about that. In my opinion, in the next 3 to 5 years, everybody's going to finally realize that it's not about the carbohydrates and it's not about the fat necessarily. It's the fact that most people just don't get enough protein during the day, and because of that, they're overeating carbs and fat, and that's a major part of our health problems. That and the fact that they don't weight train. All right, that's it for today. Of course, you can continue this conversation in the VIGORESS Facebook group, so you can just click the link that's right down there, and we can continue this conversation in the VIGORESS Facebook group. So I'll be back tomorrow for the last message in this 5-day mini course. Again, I'm really happy. I'm excited for you. I'm grateful to be a part of this journey with you as you work to improve your health and fitness. So thanks so much for being part of the VIGORESS membership team. Have a great day.